Due to the sensitive nature of this topic, listener discretion is advised. Episode 2: Princess Diana's Death. Born on July 1st, 1961, Diana Frances Spencer, more commonly known as Princess Diana, has been the subject of the royal family for over 2 decades since her passing. Diana eventually joined the royal family in 1981 when she married Prince Charles of Wales. Charles was the first in line to assume the throne in England, making Diana in line to become the next queen. Charles and Diana had 2 sons, William and Henry. In August of 1996, Diana left the royal family by divorcing Charles. The specific reasons behind the divorce have not fully been uncovered. A lot say she was unhappy with the family. Others say that she was put up to it. Either way, it was a highly scrutinized and publicized case. Diana was awarded £17 million and an additional £400,000 per year in the divorce settlement. Obviously, divorce was extremely rare, especially in those times within royal families. And the family is instantly showed resentment toward Diana. Queen Elizabeth II especially does not like any tainted image bestowing the royal family. This was also evident when she cut all ties with Prince Henry a couple decades later. Diana was beloved by the people of England and supported her more than Charles and the royal family itself when the divorce unfolded. Behind closed doors, there was likely anger and resentment for what Diana did to dishonor the family. Obviously, with anger, with any human, especially humans at high ranks, there comes many poorly made decisions, and even historical altering ones. Again, the likely reason Diana divorced Charles is due to the fact that he was seeing another woman behind her back. There were also added pressures of being the spouse to the eventual king. Now, conveniently, the woman Charles was seeing in secret was none other than Camilla Shand, now currently the Queen of England. In the summer of 1997, approximately 1 year after the divorce was settled, Diana rekindled a friendship she had with a film producer, Dodi Fayed. This friendship turned romantic during the summer, and the both publicly announced their relationship then. A fatal crash heard around the world. In the early morning hours of August 31st, 1997, Diana and Dodi were being escorted in a Mercedes to Dodi's Paris's apartment. During the drive, the chauffeur, Henry Paul, lost control of the car and struck a tunnel's concrete pillar. Multiple eyewitnesses that saw the vehicle stated it was speeding and that it swerved to avoid striking another vehicle on the roadway. Diana and Dodie were pronounced deceased before arriving at the local hospital. Paul was also announced deceased on scene. A decade later, it was found that Paul and other paparazzi were the cause of Diana's death. A lot of facts of this case do not add up, thus sparking multiple conspiracies over the years. Accident or murder? The father of Dodi Fayed, Muhammad Al-Fayed, believed the couple were victims of a murder plot that was orchestrated by none other than Prince Philip, Queen Elizabeth II's husband. Diana and Dodi were planning on announcing their engagement to one another publicly, which would bring even more dishonor and negative views to the royal family. It is suggested that Prince Philip hired Henry Paul to escort the couple that morning. The murder was then covered up to look like an accident, and evidence was then created by the British Secret Service to show that this was just a tragedy. Wrong place, wrong time. There is a theory that this was in fact an accident due to the fact that Diana's car was not even the target. Allegedly, the British security services were planning to sabotage Serbian leader Milosevic. The plan was to use some sort of light to disorient the driver, whether it was a flashlight or light from the car, and that would cause a crash. And clearly this crash did not have the Serbian leader involved, and Diana's death was indeed a mistake. Paul the spy. Who was Henry Paul, the chauffeur, that night? He's the driver responsible for Diana's death, no matter how you look at it. He had the wheels of the vehicle, and they crashed, and they were dead. Paul was the security leader for Diana and Dodi that night. An alarming fact about Paul was his financial situation. The position which he held made the equivalent to $30,000 per year. But somehow he had $200,000 spread across 15 bank accounts. First of all, 15 bank accounts itself is very questionable, let alone $200,000 spread across them. Paul was also carrying $1,500 cash on him at the time of the crash. Highly unusual for a security detail like that. Paul was allegedly being paid by his intelligence contacts he made while serving as a private detective prior to his employment for Diana and Dodi. There was an allegation made by an independent journalist stating Paul was set to meet with the French DGSE. It's an agency similar to America's CIA. And he was set to meet them the evening prior to the crash. And obviously the agency denied and is going to continuously deny any involvement with Paul himself. The official reports show that Henry Paul was extremely intoxicated during the crash, with his alcohol level being 3 times the legal limit. Now, if it were any other person getting in that car, they would be able to tell that the driver was intoxicated to that level. You would be able to smell it, and you could tell by the mannerisms that are common with drunk drivers. I doubt Diana or Dodie would have gotten into that car seeing their driver in that condition. Paul may not have been a high-level spy operative, but he was trying to earn respect within the organization and do anything to make a name for himself. No cameras were working. In the area of the crash by the tunnel, there were 14 traffic cameras. Now, from personal experience, these cameras do go offline from time to time. However, out of 14 cameras, there should have been at least one that worked. To this day, conveniently, there is no video evidence of the crash, which has led many to believe that the cameras were purposely taken offline that night and that morning. With no evidence, there's no telling what occurred during the crash and the investigation itself. The cameras didn't turn on when the police did their investigation. At some point, the cameras would eventually turn on. Was there another car? The car that Paul allegedly swerved to avoid has been described as a white Fiat. There's no evidence pointing to where the Fiat was at the time of the crash, but as an eyewitness did state, they saw a car matching that description leaving the scene. That witness also stated that the Fiat left the tunnel shortly after the crash, and it had a taillight that was shattered, indicating that it struck an object or something struck it. The car that Diana was in had white streaks along it, and there were pieces of a taillight found. Now, understanding how crash investigations work, especially fatal ones, I know there should have been more done to find the second vehicle. Even if the cameras were down around the tunnel, there are several cameras along intersections of every major city that captures events 24/7. Did the initial French investigators refuse to find the Fiat because they were paid to keep quiet? Or were they just oblivious to this investigation? I'm thinking the first option due to the high society status of the victims. Needless to say, that white Fiat has never been found. As a lot of major and tragic historical events have shown, conspiracies will always surround them. The spark of multiple conspiracy theories, and the Princess Diana case is no exception. I believe that the combination of these theories is the most logical and makes the most sense. There seems to have been a plot to kill Diana and her lover by the royal family to maintain their honor. Prince Philip took the responsibility to ensure that she was, quote-unquote, taken care of before she and Dodie announced their engagement. Investigators have shut down Mohammed Fayed's request to investigate more thoroughly to bring light evidence suggesting this was a murder. Henry Paul was most likely hired by the royal family to spy on Diana and Dodie and eventually given the green light to take them out. The Fiat was likely involved in some capacity in the cover-up. It's just unusual that a former royal that was killed did not receive a full investigation. Diana's impact on the world still shows today. Her death has not been forgotten. It's made her a martyr, and her memory lives on. The royal family's likely plan to make the world forget about her has definitely failed. Again, these are all allegations and theories that have surfaced over the past 2 decades. There's no proof of showing any foul play or malice in Diana's death. This is just something to think about and serve as a constant reminder that not everything is as it seems. If you enjoyed this crime and conspiracy story, make sure you follow the show on all podcast platforms and continue to ask the questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how.